UFC Fight Night Jacksonville, Florida. Smith versus Teixeira takes place next week in the middle of the week on Wednesday, exactly a week from now, to make up for some of the other cancellations. We've been given a bonus event in the middle of the week, which I'm all in favour for, and I'll be honest with you guys, for a card that was scrambled together last minute after some cancellations, this is actually a pretty decent card. So I'm going to be going through the entire thing, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown to every single fight on the card, beginning with our early prelim opener of Chase Sherman versus Ike Villanueva. I like his surname very much. This is a guy who's been outside the UFC for a very long time. He's put a lot of streaks together in his career, but unfortunately for himself, he hasn't quite done enough to get into the UFC or get their notice, but right now, he's taken advantage of this situation where we're in dire need of fighters and dire need of heavyweights, period, regardless of the pandemic. And Ike Villanueva has been given a chance against Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman, of course, been doing the damn thing over at bare knuckle boxing, coming off a loss, but before that he won a fight in bare knuckle boxing. He's an absolute savage. I guess that makes him, if you sign up for bare knuckle boxing, I think you're just a level above some people in the UFC, to be honest with you, because it's quite devastating. I mean, I watched Glover versus Knight, and I understand that those two, in that one fight, probably accumulated more brain damage than Overeem and Arlovski combined. We'll get to Arlovski in a second. However, Chase Sherman's going to win that fight, I believe. He's way tougher. He's got a better chin. He hasn't lost to Trevin Giles, which Ike Villanueva has, by the way. I thought that's pretty important to notice. The current middleweight in the UFC that almost lost to a welterweight on one day's notice, James Krause. Trevin Giles beat Ike Villanueva in the first round. And he's a heavyweight, is he? I don't think he's going to win versus Chase Sherman. Chase Sherman is a huge guy, decent enough chin. We know how good Chase Sherman is. We don't have any idea how good Ike Villanueva is whatsoever. I'm going to go with Chase Sherman. Fought better opponents. Had a good fight with Rashad Coulter that I really enjoyed. It was an amazing fight while it lasted. I think Chase Sherman's going to get the job done and rejuvenate himself into the UFC at 30 years of age. He's a baby in the heavyweight division, so he's still got time to go. Chase Sherman versus Ike Villanueva. I'll go with Chase Sherman by second round or first round TKO. Once Villanueva gets rid of his initial burst of juice, because he is not the most in-shape guy in the world, I'll be honest with you. I'll go for second round finish by Chase Sherman. Moving on. Hunter Azure versus Brian Kelleher. Amazing fight. Brian Kelleher's a beast. Coming off a big win at UFC 246 on the main card over Odi Osborne. But then again, it's Odi Osborne. He was 6-2. He did not deserve to be in the UFC whatsoever. Just saying, Brian Kelleher. And then we got Hunter Azure on the other hand, who's coming off a big win against Brad Katona. A big guy and a much more natural featherweight, and a guy who's fought a featherweight throughout his entire career, actually forced Brad Katona to go down in weights. I like Hunter Azure here, especially because it is at featherweight. He's a huge guy for that weight division, and Brian Kelleher spent the majority of his time fighting at bantamweight, and although he is dangerous, he's lost to Marlon Vera, he's lost to Montel Jackson. You know, he beat Odi Osborne. I don't know what that means. That's Odi Osborne. I have no fucking clue who that is. I know that Hunter Azure beat Brad Katona, and Brad Katona's no fucking slouch. So I'm going to go with Hunter Azure, a much bigger guy, and he'll get the job done over Brian Kelleher by out-grappling him and probably winning a dominant decision over 3 rounds. Hunter Azure gets the job done. Moving on. Gabriel Benitez versus Omar Morales. A lot of people are thinking I'm going to go with Omar Morales here. I am not sold on him whatsoever. I thought his UFC debut that he had against the Asian guy that he fought, Dong Hyung Ma, was very lackluster, to be honest with you. He took him to a decision, which I was not expecting from him whatsoever. He's also 34 years of age. Just getting into the UFC, that doesn't spell a nice little bit of a disaster, then I don't know what does. I think Gabriel Benitez, who's in his prime, 31 years of age, I think he's going to go out there and get a huge upset over Omar Morales, because I am not sold on Omar Morales whatsoever. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm just not. His UFC debut, unless that was the most off night he's ever had, I'm not thinking he's some kind of monster. I don't know who he's fought. He's had some good finishes in his career, but his UFC debut was a little bit of a letdown, so I'm going to go with Gabriel Benitez. I like Gabriel Benitez. He's a decent fighter. He's had some good showings in the UFC. He's had some wins in the UFC as well. He also rocked Sadiq Yusuff in the first round, if that means anything, before getting KO'd by Yusuff himself. But he's had a long time off since then, since Yusuff KO'd him in what I believe was, if I remember correctly, on the main card of UFC 241 somehow. I seem to remember that. On the main card of 241, Gabriel Benitez versus Sadiq Yusuff, although I'm not sure. I'll have to jog my memory, but I think that Gabriel Benitez is going to go in there, get the job done, over an old man in Omar Morales that should have had an easier time against Dong Hyung Ma. Gabriel Benitez is going to get the upset. by decision or TKO. Who knows? Omar Morales, you're 34. No time to be making your debut. You're going to learn this the hard way. Gabriel Benitez is going to go out there and shock the world. Moving on. Ah, fuck. Ciara Eubanks versus Sarah Moras. Do I give it a prediction or breakdown? Ciara Eubanks is 4-4. She doesn't deserve to be in the UFC. She's 4-4. Sarah Moras is 6-5. She doesn't deserve to be in the UFC. She's 6-5. It's not like it's the flyweight division and we need just people to fill up the fucking roster, or the featherweight division at women's MMA. This is the bantamweight division. Why is someone who is 4-4 allowed to represent the best sport in the world, the best combat sport in the world, the UFC? They're supposed to be the best fighters in the world. She's 4-4. Get rid of her. It was a shock that she was even considered for a title shot at one point in her career. I think Eubanks is going to win. I don't care, because they're both shit. Moving on. Michael Johnson versus Thiago Moises. This is actually a decent fight because, and I would usually say Michael Johnson, and I think Michael Johnson's going to be the favourite here. But Thiago Moises is a young guy coming up from ATT. He's a great fighter as well. He's had some good fights in his career. And also, Michael Johnson just lost to Stevie Ray. I'm not trying to shit on Stevie Ray here. I'm from the UK, so is Stevie Ray. He's from Scotland, I'm from England. I get it, we're kind of different, but we're the same thing overall. Let's be real. We're from the same island. We got the same ancestors. Either way, Stevie Ray should not be beating Michael Johnson. I'm just saying. He beat Michael Johnson. Emmett KO'd Michael Johnson. That worries me. Michael Johnson's had a little bit of a rough time recently. And I think that Thiago Moises might be able to pull something off here. He lost to Damir Ismagulov, but to be fair to him, Damir Ismagulov is fucking 19-2. Before that, he beat Kurt Holobar, who's actually a somewhat decent fighter with a win in the UFC, I believe. I think Thiago Moises is going to get the job done. He's a young guy coming up, which means I favour him during this whole bad camp situation because he's still got that hunger to get things done. I think he's going to go out there, be the younger guy, be first, and stick it on Michael Johnson and work him for the entire fight and get the unanimous decision victory. I'm going with Thiago Moises. I'm not picking Michael Johnson anymore. He's let me down too many times. I'm going with Thiago Moises. I think he's going to get the jump on Michael Johnson. Moving on to a great main event of the prelims, if you can say great. We've got Andrei Arlovski. He's Andrei Arlovski. Whatever's left of him at this point, I'll be honest with you, that chin has taken a fair few weathering shots, to say the least. It's Andrei Arlovski. He either goes out there and takes everything that anyone can give him and gives it back twice as hard like he did against Ben Rothwell, or he goes out there and gets hit with a fadeaway hook by someone, or an uppercut by someone that doesn't look particularly hard, but it KOs him stiff. You never know with Arlovski. I think I'm going to bet that as time goes on, that chin isn't getting any better. I'm going to go with Philippe Lins. I like Philippe Lins. I think it's pronounced Felipe Lins. I'm going to keep calling him Felipe Lins. I don't care what Dana White pronounces it as. I think he's going to get the job done. He's had a good career. He's been on a bit of a win streak. And what I've noticed is he went on a massive win streak and then he just waited, which is a very smart thing to do. He just went on a win streak and just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm sitting around. I'm not going to risk losing. I'm going to wait for the UFC to need someone that's in the heavyweight division. And I'm going to be sitting here on a 4-fight win streak. I like the attitude from Philippe Lins. I like how he scammed the UFC into giving him a shot because he's actually a light heavyweight. And I don't know where he's going to go from here. I think Philippe Lins is going to win the fight. He has been KO'd a few times, but he does do a fair bit of KOing himself. I'll be honest with you. And it's the heavyweight division. Guys get KO'd. Ask Andrei Arlovski. I think Philippe Lins is going to get the jump on Andrei Arlovski here. I think he's going to KO him nice and early in that first round. I don't know where he's going to go from there, though, because he's not a big heavyweight, and the light heavyweight division needs some help right now. So I think if he wins this one, a great move to make would maybe be him at light heavyweight versus one of those up-and-comers like Shamil Gamzatov, who's on a 1-0 streak in the UFC right now, and a relatively new fighter in that light heavyweight division. So if Philippe Lins wins this fight, fair play. You've got a whole bunch of attention. You've just KO'd Andrei Arlovski. Let's take some of that attention into the light heavyweight division where you fucking belong. Because let's be real, you only got this fight and accepted this fight was because it was at heavyweight. You did not plan to be at heavyweight. You can look at Philippe Lins yourself and you can see that he's quite clearly a light heavyweight man himself. I think he's going to go out there, chin Arlovski in that first round, and then move down to light heavyweight and start doing some work there. Philip Lins, look out for him. I think he's a very good fighter. He's just not big enough to be a heavyweight, to be honest with you. But yeah, Andre Arlovski's going to get chinned. I can't rely on it. I know. I picked him to lose against Ben Rothwell. I was wrong, but guess what? Picked him to lose a bunch more times as well, and I've been right more than I've been wrong. So I'm going to keep picking him to lose because I can't trust that chin. It's like making a prediction on James Vick. Ain't going to fucking happen. Andre Arlovski is losing the fight by first round KO. Let's move on to the main card. Or give a quick recap of the prelims. I've got Chase Sherman, second round. Kelleher loses a decision. Azure wins that fight. Benitez upsets Morales. Eubanks, Moras stare at each other for 3 rounds, and Eubanks gets a hand raised at the end of it. Johnson's going to lose to Moises, and Arlovski's going to get chinned by Lins. Moving to the main card though, and this one really is fucking stacked. For a main card that they have had to struggle to get together, I'm telling you guys, this is a great main card. I'll be honest with you, the co-main event is not so strong, and we'll get to that in a second, but the entire main card as a whole, me gusta. I like it very much. Starting with Carl Roberson versus Marvin Vettori. I have no idea why Carl Roberson's name is first. Marvin Vettori is very highly ranked and way higher ranked than Carl Roberson. Vettori's ranked number 16 just outside the rankings. Again, I have no idea why Roberson's name comes first. However, Roberson is known in the kickboxing community as a very good kickboxer himself. Very savage. He's beat guys like Ryan Spann. He's beat Roman Kopylov in his last fight, and that was a great performance as well. I just feel as though Vettori wins it, man. I've watched their Cesar Ferreira fights, and although you can't do MMA math like that, I can get a kind of a gist on where both of their grappling skills are. I know Roberson has the advantage on the feet. I know that, and I think the leg kicks of Roberson are going to be a huge impact on this fight because Vettori likes to stand nice and heavy on that lead leg to unload with his boxing combinations. However, Roberson doesn't seem to have a lot of finishing power at middleweight. At light heavyweight, he's KOing fucking Ryan Spann. So he has some power there for some reason, but when he comes, and he almost got Glover Teixeira as well. People forgot about that fight. Carl Roberson's other loss on his career was going up at light heavyweight and fighting Glover Teixeira on short notice, and he almost got Glover before Glover put him in that arm triangle. However, I think Vettori's going to beat him. Vettori's not shown any signs to me that he's got a bad chin. He's taken some big shots off of some great guys, taken them well as well. And Roberson, to me, at middleweight has not shown any great power, even though he swings like it, which worries me, because Vettori can keep that pressure on you for 3 rounds, and Roberson does seem to fade quite a little bit in that third, where Vettori doesn't. And again, that Cesar Ferreira fight, I mean, they weren't too far apart from each other when they fought Cesar Ferreira. I think it was 2 fights apart from each other when they both fought him. Carl Roberson got ragdolled and submitted, and Vettori had a field day on Cesar Ferreira for 3 rounds and shut down all sorts of takedown attempts and just completely neutralized the grappling and beat up Ferreira on the feet. I know if Vettori doesn't like the striking, he can take Roberson down and submit him, because he submitted Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts in his UFC fucking debut. Okay? If Roberson's not liking it on the feet, he doesn't have any choice. That's what I'm going to go off of. I think they're identical in this fight. I don't think Vettori should be too heavy of a favourite. I'm not sure how heavy he is of a favourite. I think this is a very even fight, but the one thing that Vettori has over Roberson, options. I'm going to go with the options. I'm going to go with Marvin Vettori. These 2 guys are pretty much identical anyway. 1 inch between them in height. The same exact reach on the pair of them. I mean, they're almost identical to each other, other than some obvious things, of course. But Roberson, I like him. I almost wish that he wins this one, because although I like Marvin Vettori, he's 26, he can bounce back. Roberson has kind of got to go now or never. He's 29 years old. He needs this one to set himself into those number 15 spots in the rankings. I just think that Vettori's got this one in the bag. He's got more options. He's fought better guys. He's fought guys that Roberson has lost to. He's got the grappling advantage. He's not got a bad chin at all. He's never really been cracked hard and wobbled. Maybe against Omari Akhmedov, he got wobbled once, but then he ate it well, and Akhmedov's an absolute monster of that division and even went to a draw with Akhmedov. Vettori is no slouch. I don't know how good Roberson is yet, because I'll be honest with you guys, you know, you fought Kopylov when he was relatively new. I don't know who Roberson's beat. And I know who Vettori has, and I know Vettori has the options. So Vettori's going to beat Roberson. Moving on. I think Vettori beats him by unanimous decision. takes him down at the end of some rounds after eating some leg kicks that he doesn't like and controls the position there, leading him to win those rounds over and over and over again for a unanimous decision. Moving on, Ricky Simone versus Ray Borg. Again, great fight, but Ray Borg coming up to bantamweight to face Ricky Simone. It's a good opportunity for him, to be fair. He's coming off a big win over Rodrigo Bontorin, even though he missed weight, which is kind of fucking annoying, to be honest with you. But either way, Ray Borg keeps missing weight. It's okay. He's going through some shit, which means he can't make weight for some bizarre reason. But either way, he's at bantamweight now, which he should be able to make weight for. Ricky Simone is a dangerous man. Ray Borg is a grappler. Ricky Simone shuts grapplers down badly, and some good grapplers as well in that division. Go watch his fight with Rani Yahya. Rani Yahya just almost beat Enrique Barzola in that bantamweight division, so Ricky Simone's win over him's looking even better now. But Ray Borg, I just don't see him winning this one. Ricky Simone's too big. Ray Borg's only option is to out-grapple him. He's way bigger. He's got a 15-centimeter reach advantage. I go crazy over that kind of reach advantage when it's Jones versus Anthony Smith. But this is bantamweight. That's just unfair. Ricky Simone wins. He's got a good chin, although he got cracked by Faber. He got hit by big shots from Rob Font. Rob Font's a guy who hits very hard. KO'd Almeida. I know that doesn't say much because, you know, Almeida has a bit of a knack for being KO'd, I'll be honest with you. He's not the most solid-chinned man himself. But Ricky Simone is going to beat Ray Borg. Nuff said. Ray Borg's still 26, which amazes me because I feel like I'm looking at a 35-year-old man sometimes. Ricky Simone's going to go out there and whoop up on him for 3 rounds. Probably finish him at the end of the 3rd once Ray Borg can't take any more. Good win for Ricky Simone. Moving on. The War of the Chads. It's Chad Wars. Chad Wars. Alexander Hernandez versus Drew Dober. Maybe the people's co-main event, in my opinion. I think this is more interesting than Rothwell versus OSP. I'll hold my hands up and say it. It's more interesting than OSP versus Rothwell by far. I don't know why this isn't the co-main event. Not to mention, neither Rothwell or OSP are ranked. I guess because OSP fought John Jones once and went to a decision, he gets co-main event slots. But either way, Hernandez is ranked and dangerous as well. Beat Beneil Dariush. Drew Dober lost to Beneil Dariush, but I'm not even going to take that into consideration here. Drew Dober is a huge man and a bully in that division. And he's also a man who cuts a shit ton of weight, but doesn't seem to suffer the consequences that other guys do with their chins. I'm going to go with Drew Dober. I like Alexander Hernandez. I don't think he has the power to make Drew Dober pay because he didn't have the power to make Cerrone pay, which worries me a little bit. So I think Drew Dober's going to go out there, march him down, be the bigger guy, be the bully. And not to mention, Drew Dober was doing very good against Beneil Dariush. I actually learned more from the Dober fight against Dariush than I do with the Hernandez one. Hernandez's fight with Dariush, although he KO'd him, and that stands, and he should be ranked because of that. You know, his performance against Olivier Aubin-Mercier was a little bit lackluster. He won the fight, though, so good for Hernandez. And then he had his performance against Trinaldo, which he won, but it was close. But he also tore his shoulder out of place. Now he's back in action. I just think that Dober's going to catch him square on the chin. Not to mention, Dober knows he's been having a fight. This isn't a short notice fight for Dober. He was supposed to be fighting Diego Ferreira, if you remember. I believe on this card around this time. He was supposed to be fighting Cesar Ferreira. Not Cesar Ferreira, Diego Ferreira at lightweight. That was the original fight and everyone was confused. Why the fuck would they make that fight? But this one, the War of the Chads, is a much better fight to make. Hernandez versus Dober. I'm just going to go with Dober, man. I just don't see him... I don't see him losing to Hernandez. I don't see Hernandez KOing Dober. I definitely don't see Hernandez submitting Dober in any way whatsoever. Dober's way too experienced to get caught by Hernandez by something. I don't see Hernandez's way of winning. But he's taken the fight, which shows that he's confident. He's got the reach advantage. They're around the same size, but Dober's a little bit bigger, I guess, for the division. I just think that Dober's going to get it done. He's too good. Not too good. He's coming off a big win over Nasrat Haqparast, which was a decent performance. He KO'd him in the first round, but Dober's just got too much power and too good of a chin for me to pick Alexander Hernandez. Dober does very well, and I think he's going to do well against Hernandez. I want Hernandez to win, though. I really do. He's the younger guy. He talks a lot of shit. He was the guy that said, I think I had COVID-19. I just beat its ass or something like that. Everyone came down on him for that. He knows exactly how to annoy everyone on those forums, which is amazing for me to watch from the sidelines because, you know, I like people getting annoyed, and Hernandez seems to do it every single time he opens his mouth, which I am a fan of. And I think if Hernandez does win this one, it only builds the fight between him and Makhachev even more. Or it builds a fight between him and Diego Ferreira. Who knows? If Dober beats Hernandez, then the Ferreira fight makes sense. But I don't know why they would make it before then. But either way, Dober wins the fight. I think he's going to win it by... I hate to say it. I think he's going to KO Hernandez. I just think he's going to catch him. I want Hernandez to win, but I'm going to go with Drew Dober here by a late first round KO. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know how good Hernandez is, because every time we've seen Hernandez, he's had some kind of injury. He's shown up on short notice, and we don't really get a grip on how good he is against Beneil Dariush. This will be a good tester. If he can beat Drew Dober, you guys need to shut up, because he's very good if he beats Drew Dober. Very, very good indeed. I just don't think it's going to happen. Drew Dober's going to beat him by TKO in the first round. Moving on. Ben Rothwell versus Eubanks St. Preux. Interesting. I'm going to go with Ben Rothwell. Originally, I was going to go for OSP. I thought he was going to be a new man at light heavyweight. And then I took into consideration the size of Ben Rothwell. And then I took into consideration that much, much smaller guys were rocking OSP. And we've seen with guys moving up in weight sometimes, i.e. James Vick, that sometimes that chin doesn't magically restore itself like Joe Rogan seems to tell us every week. Your chin is your chin, I've noticed. And whether you cut weight or not, it doesn't seem to get that much better going up in weight, and especially when you take into consideration, OSP isn't jumping from fucking 135 to 45 here. He's jumping from 205 to heavyweight to 265 potentially. And I think Ben Rothwell is all of that 265. I'm not too sure, but he must be one of the biggest heavyweights around. I think he's going to go out there, put the pressure on OSP, smother him like Ben Rothwell does. Ben Rothwell's taken big shots off of guys like Junior Dos Santos, Blagoy Ivanov, great opponents, eats them well. One thing you can say about Ben Rothwell that you can't say about a lot of these veterans is that his chin doesn't seem to have gotten drastically worse throughout his career. I think he's going to go out there, smother OSP, and KO him in the second round after a little bit of roughing up in that first. Ben Rothwell gets a TKO in the second round, and also OSP, he's not some young gun jumping up a weight class. He's some guy who's been KO'd and rocked in almost every one of his fights out of his last 5 or 10, and he's 37 years of age. 1 year younger than Ben Rothwell. This ain't some young guy looking to reinvent himself. This is a fallback plan for Eubanks St. Preux, and I don't think he's going to get the job done. Ben Rothwell by second round TKO. Anthony Smith versus Glover Teixeira. Great main event. Amazing main event. I like the main event. It's a good one. It's not the best in the world. It's Smith versus Teixeira. The fight shouldn't be made in the first place. I think the fight to be made was Smith versus Thiago Santos. Maybe we can still see that one afterwards. Who knows? But we've got this one. I'm going with Smith. I can't not go with Smith. I've seen Glover Teixeira almost beaten by Nikita Krylov, but then again, Nikita Krylov just walked through Johnny Walker, so he's very good himself. It's just a... I don't know, man. It's just... I fucking hate Anthony Smith. I do. He's just shit. He's not shit, but you know what I mean. I think he's going to win. I don't know what more to break down about it. I think he's going to win. Glover Teixeira can't win. Can he? I'll go Smith. I'll go Smith by TKO in the 4th round. He's enough to survive against Teixeira. More than enough to survive. And then Teixeira is going to start to slow down in that 4th. Being the older man that he is during this whole not very good training camp situation. And I think Anthony Smith's eventually going to use some of that pace that he has, that he used against Volkan Ozdemir. I think Volkan Ozdemir is far better than Teixeira, and Smith beat Ozdemir. I'm giving it to Smith by 4th round TKO. I think he gets the job done. He's got a very good style as well. Great takedown defense. Not particularly good, but against everyone other than John Jones, pretty good. Good submission defense as well. Great chin at light heavyweight. I think he's going to get the job done over Glover Teixeira. Actually, I'll go by 1st round TKO. Why not? Smith gets it done nice and early. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Those are my predictions. Like and subscribe. Click that button there. See you later. Yeah.